Hi everyone, good evening. I want to describe a process that I have been part of for the past 3 years, which is meaningful and powerful for me and my family, thanks to Heart to Heart. Many years ago, when my daughter were little, we went to the northern of Israel, passing through an Arab village. It was about 7 p.m. It was dark, and there were no lights in the streets. My daughter were hungry and wanted to eat, so I suggested we stop and buy something at Fuerdis. Immediately there was a discussion whether it is safe or not to stop in an Arab village. Maya and Ella were only 10 years old, but already familiar with the historical conflict, and they felt uncomfortable with this idea. I decided to stop anyway, promising that no one will harm them. We bought dinner and we went back to the car. They were still upset from the experience. They did not feel safe and they were angry at me, their mother. I want to stop for a second and think about it together. If an Arab person would have heard their anger, he would probably experience it as hatred towards him, even though you can understand my daughter's response were an expression of fear. 5 years later, 2019, now as a 15 years old, Mai went on a plane full of Jewish and Arab teenagers that flew to Canada for 1 month at the Heart to Heart camp. During the camp, Mai was exposed to different perspectives. There were 10 Arab participants. But Mai came back upset from one person in particular, the girl that expressed her disappointment with the Israelis and the conflict and that argued repeatedly during the camp. It is very hard not to take anger expressed directly toward your people personally. At this point, I want to keep in mind that the Arabs of Faradis are no more representatives of the conflict than my daughter Mai. But yet, fear from the past haunts the relationships of today on both sides. The heart-to-heart journey continued long after the camp. We had family activities and I made friends among other parents, creating new connections which I could not create on my own. In May 2021, when there was tension and violence between Jews and Arabs in Israel, at first I found myself amazed by the hatred expressed. I felt disappointed even more because I had Arab friends now, and I could not imagine them behave like that towards me. Thanks to the new connections, I had someone to call. I got another perspective. I spoke to the other parents. I heard their explanations of what was causing unrest in their community. Through these conversations, I stopped seeing a threatening enemy and instead I saw people that are reacting to frightening situations that threatens their independence. And even if I completely disagree with how their leadership chose to respond, I could understand their frustration and their need to react. I now looked at the situation differently because I was open to hear my Arab friends' point of view. I understood that we, the common people, can shape the interaction between us and not let political leaders who have their own agendas set the relationship and create violent actions that bring separation and mistrust. We can communicate even in bad times and continue the process even though it is not simple. So when I got invited to the demonstrations of Arab and Jews calling for peace and an end of the violence, I joined. It helped me reduce my fear and even gave me comfort and hope. When you have friends on the other side, you can easily be empathic towards their hardship. By understanding the situation, I no longer consider Arab anger as addressed to individuals impersonally. I see it as a cry for help and a problem that needs to be resolved together. I feel that I have responsibility to be a voice in creating the change. This shift in my mind is possible due to the new friendships that I made. Normally, I don't step up and speak out, but when dear Jenny asked for volunteers to share their personal experience, I knew that the process of change that I went through was too important to keep to myself. I think that there is no substitute for personal connections. Now, no one will never make me feel as if these people are different from me and want to hurt me. It is common to express fear as anger, and it is easy to accidentally interpret this anger as hate. Thanks to Heart, we invented the magical mechanism. I'm joking, but it is magical, of shifting from fear to hope. It's a magical glass that helps see frustrations on the other side as it is, and not confuse it for hate. These are the hard, necessary first steps that will enable us to achieve long-term changes that are so needed. Heart to Heart for me is more than a name. It's an actual process which we have experienced and which we take forward as a family. I wish for you all the privilege of being part of this important, significant journey. Thank you for listening. Good evening.